This video looks at how procedural programming will be represented in the OCR A-level exam, using the board's exam reference language and the Python equivalents. For the advantages and disadvantages of this programming paradigm, see the 2.4a video. But a brief recap of the key features is that programs are structured as a sequence of procedures or functions, code is executed step by step in a defined order, it uses variables, selections, and iteration, and it focuses on what the program does, not on modeling real-world objects like OOP does. You must be able to read OCR, ERL, or exam reference language, as this is how code will be presented in the exam. You also need to have experience writing in a high level programming language such as Python or Java. Here are all of the pseudocode concepts that you need to know and will be covered in this video, with the OCR, ERL, and the Python equivalents. A comment is not printed when a program runs. It can be used to describe a purpose of code and is helpful for working in teams. OCR uses two forward slashes, whereas Python uses a hash symbol. A variable is declared the first time a value is assigned. The variable name, or its identifier, is written first, followed by the value. It assumes the data type of a value it is given. Strings, which is a collection of letters, numbers, and/or symbols, require speech marks. Integers, which are whole numbers, and real or float values, which are decimal numbers, do not use speech marks. The available variable in this example is Boolean, which is true or false, and it uses a capital letter. Variables declared inside a subroutine are local to that subroutine, meaning they can only be accessed within that function or procedure. Variables in the main program can be made global with the keyword global, and we'll look more closely at local and global variables in section 2.1c in paper 2. The input command is used to enter data. OCR does not require casting into different data types when inputting. But with Python, data is automatically input as a string. If you require the data to be treated differently, such as performing a calculation on a number, you will need to cast it into a different data type. Int is used to convert to an integer, float is for a decimal number, and str also exists to convert a value into a string. The print command outputs the contents of the brackets. Speech marks are used for strings, and the plus symbol can concatenate or join together multiple strings. Comparison operators are used to compare values, often with selection or iteration that we'll look at shortly. Double equals means equal to, exclamation equals means not equal to, and then make sure you get your less than and your greater than signs the correct way round so you don't drop easy marks in an exam. Arithmetic operators are used with numerical values, integer or real. In the examples here, 3 plus 5 is 8, 3 take away 5 is minus 2, 3 multiplied by 5 is 15, and 3 divided by 5 is 0.6. Make sure you use the correct symbols for multiply and divide. Let's look at 3 further arithmetic operators which could appear in the exam. The modulo or modulus operator is used to return the remainder after one number is divided by another. 20 mod 3 is 2. Let's look at 3 going into 20. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. The next one would be 21, but that's over 20. So from 18 to 20, the remainder is 2. Integer division returns the quotient, which is the whole number result of a division, and it discards any remainder or decimal part. 20 integer division 3 is 6. 20 divided by 3 is 6.666 recurring. Remove the decimal and you're left with just the integer, which is 6. An exponent means to the power of. For example, 5 exponent 3 is the same as saying 5 to the power of 3 or 5 times 5 times 5. In this example of exponentiation, 20 to the power of 3 is the same as 20 times 20 times 20, which is 8,000. After comparison and arithmetic operators, a final set of logical or Boolean operators. This first example checks if both the username and the password are equal to specific values. The second example checks that at least one of the two parts of the condition is correct, that the answer is either equal to Japan or equal to South Korea. Note, even if you're using the same variable, you must write its name out again. If answer is equal to Japan or South Korea would not be correct. It must be if answer is equal to Japan or answer is equal to South Korea. Finally, the not operator reverses a condition. So if not guess is equal to yellow is the same as if not equal to yellow. Now we will look at selection, which is how a computer program makes a decision. OCR uses then and doesn't require colons. It uses end if to denote the end of the if statement. Also note that selection uses double equals for equal to, as we've previously seen. Any indented code beneath an if statement will run if the condition is true. If it is false, then the indented code beneath else will run instead. Else if, or elif in Python, can be used for additional decision making. There's no limit to the number of elif or else if statements that you can use. This program will look at the if statement first and run the indented code if the condition is true. It will then look at each else if statement, running the indented code of the first statement that is true. If none of the conditions are true, it will run the else code instead. Switch case is an alternative form of selection. If and elif are replaced by case, and else is default. Python doesn't use switch case, but it does have a similar feature called match case. Switch or match is the data to make a decision about. In this example, it is the value of the variable planet that has been input. Each case is compared to the switch in turn, and it will run the indented code of the first that is true. If no cases are correct, default will run instead. This is the same as an else statement in an if-then-else selection format. Sometimes the code you might need to write in an exam can be quite complicated. An if statement inside of an if statement is called a nested if. In this example, if number 1 is more than 10, a second number is input, and then within that, another if statement is used to see if the second number is also greater than 10. Nested ifs can be confusing to write, so make sure any corresponding if, elif, and else statements are indented so they align vertically. Now let's look at iteration, which is for repetition. A for loop is a count-controlled loop which repeats a specific number of times. OCR ERL has an inclusive upper limit, whereas Python uses an exclusive upper limit. What that means is writing 1 to 10 in OCR ERL means you would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. In Python, if you were to write the range as 1, 10, you would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it's exclusive, so it does not reach that upper limit. So for Python, you would need to write for I in range 1, 11, so it will go up to 10. A while loop is a condition-controlled loop that repeats as long as the condition is true. This example will check the value of the answer variable, and while it is not equal to Nairobi, will repeat the indented code to input a value. When the condition is no longer true, so when the answer is equal to Nairobi, the loop finishes and moves on to the next line to print correct. Here is another example of a while loop, but with a numerical condition. It repeatedly inputs numbers and adds them to a total, as long as the total is less than 100. While true loops are not covered in the specification, but they are a valid and helpful alternative method of writing a while loop. A while true loop will repeat until it reaches the break command, and true is a Boolean value, so it requires a capital letter. A do until loop is another example of a condition-controlled loop. The condition is checked at the end rather than at the start like a while loop, so the indented code will run at least once. Python does not use do until loops. You may need to write a loop within another loop, which is called a nested loop. In a nested loop, the inner loop runs to completion every time the outer loop runs once. You can see the J loop runs from 1 to 3, while the I loop is at 1. Then it runs from 1 to 3 again, while the IL loop is at 2, and then again when I is 3. Now we'll look at string handling. The .length, or in Python len, command returns the number of items in a collection. For example, in a string, it will return the total number of characters, or in a list, the total number of elements. Here, length, or len, is used to output the number of characters in the string further maths, of which the space is included as a character. Extracting only certain parts of a string is called slicing. Characters in a string are zero-indexed. In OCR ERL, substring can be used to extract certain characters. The first number, 5, is the index of a character to start with, and the second number is how many characters to include. In Python, square brackets can be used in a similar way. The extract will start on the character with the index 5, just like OCR ERL, but the second number refers to which character to extract up to. Except Python uses an exclusive range, so 11 will actually stop on the 10th character, which is T. Joining strings together using the plus operator is called concatenation. You can, for many instances, use commas with strings as well, but the difference is that the plus operator concatenates multiple strings into one string, whereas commas pass separate values to the print function, automatically spacing them. Now we will look at subprograms. A subprogram must be called to be executed. When it finishes, the program continues from the line after the call. Python uses def to define both functions and procedures, which are the two types of subprogram. A parameter is a variable in a subprogram that receives a value when the subprogram is called, allowing it to be used within that function or procedure. The term argument is used to refer to the actual value or variable passed into a function or procedure when it is called. In this example, num1 and num2 are the arguments that are received as parameters when the procedure addition is called, allowing those two values to be used within the procedure. A function is a type of subprogram that uses the return statement to send a value back to the point where it was called. This example calls division, which inputs two numbers and then divides and returns the answer. Writing a print statement around division when it is called means the returned value is output. A function's return value can be stored in a variable, allowing it to be used later in the program. In this example, the returned value is a variable named answer. Rather than print the square function when it is called, it is saved into a variable, also called answer, which is used in a print statement on the next line. Now let's look at arrays. An array is a data structure that holds elements of the same data type. Arrays are always zero-based, and they are static, meaning they have a fixed size that cannot change as the program is running. With OCR ERL, the array command will create a new array. Square brackets are used for arrays and also lists. Array names 4 represents a new array called names with 4 items. Python does not use arrays, but lists can be used in a similar way. Lists are not static and they can use different data types, but they are still zero indexed. An element in an array or list can be printed using its index. Print numbers 4 would print 55. The value of an element can be changed using equals. Numbers 1 equals 13 will change the value in index 1, which is 12, to 13. Here are two methods of printing each element in a one-dimensional array. The first, if you know the number of values in the array, and the second, more simply, cycling through each item. Name is just a count of each item and could have any identifier such as I. The search for a match code uses a for loop and the index number to compare each item in the array to a specific value. A two-dimensional or 2D array is made up of rows and columns. It can be used to represent a table of data, with rows acting as records and columns acting as fields. 2D arrays use two numbers for each element's index. The first number refers to the row, and the second number refers to the column. OCR ERL uses the row and column index within a single square bracket, whereas Python uses separate brackets for the row and then the column. Print numbers 2, 4 would output 50, and numbers 3, 1 equals 32 would change 73 to 32. To print a specific row using a 2D array, the first square bracket, which represents the row, is locked at a certain value, and the second bracket uses the loop number. So this example uses row 0, which is the first one, to print 0, 0, which is 56, then 0, 1 for 12, 0, 2 for 93, and so on. A similar concept is used to print a specific column. The row bracket uses the loop number, and the column bracket is given the column to lock. So I5 would print 0, 5 for 16, 1, 5 for 31, 2, 5 for 82, and 3, 5 for 66. The using selection example goes through the row with an index of 2 and checks for values that are greater than 50. So it would print the numbers 79, 51, and 82. And finally, we will look at files. A file must be opened before it can be used. Python requires the name of a file and then the open mode, which is R to read, W to overwrite, and A to append to the end of a file. OCR ERL uses openWrite to open a file in write mode. Don't forget to close the file again at the end. File.writeLine is used to write a specific line to a file. In Python, this is just file.write. The OCR ERL pseudocode above uses a while loop to print each line of a file until the end of a file is reached. Python doesn't have this command, but a for loop can be used to print each line. With Python, the open mode is R for read, and with OCR ERL, you would use open read. That covers all the pseudocode concepts you need to know from the OCR A-level specification. However, just knowing them is not enough, and it is highly recommended to practice writing code as much as possible, especially by having a go at previous exam papers.